Welcome back to my 8 subscribers, one of whom is definitely not my girlfriend, and anybody else watching this video. This is Bok Choy, starting a brand new series here called Make Haas Mediocre Again. So yeah, as you can tell from the title, I'll be playing with the Haas team just because they're really crappy. And I'm an American. They're an American-owned team, even though other than that, there's nothing American about them, apart from the name. But I figured this would be a good challenge for me. Hopefully bring some of you guys a little bit of entertainment and help me learn how to drive without the racing line in some of the more popular tracks. So without further ado, we'll get started. So it'll be a driver career, like I said. I'm not going to have any assists on. We'll be racing at 105 difficulty. I hope... I'm not hoping to win too many races early on. Well, I don't think I'm going to win any races early on. As you can see, Haas is third from last. And they're pretty much tied with Alfa Romeo in vehicle performance. So we're the second worst team here. I'm going to go with Grosjean as my teammate just because I prefer him over Magnussen. And we're only going to be doing 16 races. I'm getting rid of the races that I'm not really that good at, or there's just really not much overtaking possibilities at. So Vietnam, Monaco, Hungary, Russia, Singapore, and Abu Dhabi. I can practice those on my own, but they're probably not going to be interesting to watch in a driver career, just because it'll be pretty much a parade the whole time, especially since I'm not an amazing driver or anything like that. It's hard enough for me to pass on some of the easier tracks like Silverstone and Spa, so at least those will be a little bit more entertaining. But like I said, we're going to do all the difficulties 105. All the rules will be on. No assists, except for just during the practice weekend. I might lower the difficulty a little bit just so I can come away with some decent R&D points. Otherwise the car will just never get developed and will just constantly be in last place. So all the rules are set, and we'll get started.
So tell us a little about yourself. What's the thing you're most excited about being here in Formula One?
Come on, I had to pick the American answer. So we're going to skip ahead to qualifying here. We're just doing short qualifying. This will be our first lap. And I'm sure if any of you guys have ever driven the Haas car where the performance is not equal, you will know that this car is a piece of crap. It is really... It feels so heavy. You have to brake so much earlier. You can't get on the throttle quite as early as you can, say like with a Mercedes in time trial. Turning in is really difficult. It's, I don't know, it's just spotty. I feel like, I'm sure if I spent hours practicing, I might have been able to get it down, but trying to adjust throughout the race was really difficult for me. So you'll see that I go wide a lot. I'll go in deep into turns a lot, just because it's so different. I feel like the Mercedes on hard compound tires is easier to handle than a Haas on even the softs. I'm using 410 wings right now, but I feel like I should have gone even higher with the Haas, just because the turn-in on the car was just so poor. But I wanted to try and keep it competitive. You know, if you raise the wings too much, then you're going to be suffering on the straights, and this car is slow enough already on the straights with that Ferrari engine and a terrible aero and a terrible chassis. So I figured 410 would be okay. And that was a decent first lap, 122.7. Here we are going on to our second lap, and I'm probably not going to improve too much, but I'm just hoping we can at least improve the time. maybe get closer to our teammate in P17. You know, heading into the first couple of corners, we're already, well, we were 2/10 up. All right, we're back to about 3/10 up. So we're okay. I just want to be able to improve with every lap that I run. So I'm hoping to use this series to help maybe become a better driver. Not so much really to like win the Drivers' Champion or anything like that. I'm thinking if I can at least drive okay with the Haas without the racing line, then it should help me improve overall. Say when I'm racing online with equal performance cars, and everything handles like a tuned down Mercedes, you know. Even the online races, when the cars are supposed to be equal, you would think every car would handle like the Mercedes, but they all feel like a little more unstable Mercedes. You know, but at least they're all equal. So, but our second lap wasn't that great either, even though we improved by about 4/10. We didn't move up the positions at all, so we will be starting P19, 3 spots behind our teammate, but at least we're not last, which feels like it's the American mantra lately, you know. P19, at least we're not in P20. It'll catch on.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to Melbourne for the opening race of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to the Australian Grand Prix. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. Here we are then, Formula One in 2020. The fight for the World Championship all starts here today. Mercedes on the hunt for a 7th consecutive title. They'll have Ferrari and Red Bull to contend with along the way. Williams struggled to find their feet last year. They'll be hoping for a stronger start this time around. And what I wonder of the Renault-powered cars. Will they be able to step forward, maybe even onto the podium on a regular basis? Plenty to discuss then with Anthony Davidson. He's out of hibernation too, and alongside me in the commentary box once again.
It's good to be back, Crofty. Let's hope for some good racing today. We can't know at this point how competitive these teams are relative to each other, but hopefully nobody is able to run and hide. We want to see these drivers pushing to the limit all the way to the checkered flag.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Verstappen, Albon, Lance Stroll and Vettel, Norris, Perez, Ricciardo and Carlos Sainz, Kvyat, Raikkonen, Esteban Ocon and Gasly, Leclerc, Grosjean, Antonio Giovinazzi and George Russell, Byrne and Nicholas Latifi. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Nothing like a crafty intro to pad the time on the video. So we're going to go with just a basic soft to medium strategy here. It's only a 15 lap race. Looks like there's going to be a little bit of rain at the end of the race, but I'm not really sure if it's going to show up or not. I did entertain the thought of just throwing on the mediums to start with and stretching them out till that point in the race, but everybody started on softs, so I figured I'd start on softs. And it's lights out for our first race as a Haas driver. Pretty good start. We get in front of Russell and Giovinazzi. Not really sure where to brake here, so I kind of just brake a little bit early. Hopefully nobody takes out my front wing. But we make it through turn 1 and 2 with our front wing intact. Kind of odd to see Leclerc so far back and Vettel so far in the front there. A couple little cheeky overtakes here. And we find ourselves in P11 after the first couple of corners. So obviously, with any first lap for any race, you have to be careful going through the corners, just because everybody's so close together. The AI likes to brake really early. I mean, it kind of allows you to make those really cheesy overtakes, but on a corner like this one, where there's really only one line, you have to be careful not to run into the car in front of you. So P11 is pretty good for this first lap, but as you can see, Perez is already pulling out in front of us, and the cars behind us are really close behind us. They're really huge in the mirror. Kvyat looks like he wants to get out in front of me as soon as possible. If you look at the mini-map there, I think that's Hamilton already pulled out a huge gap to the other Mercedes and the Red Bulls. So I'm sure the guys behind me are wanting to get in front of me and stay with that front pack as much as possible, but I know it's going to be really hard to keep the cars behind me, so I want to get as many positions on the first lap and keep them for as long as possible throughout this race, just because the Haas is such a terrible car. I know it's inevitable that the midfield cars behind us will overtake us at some point, but the longer I stay out in front, the less spots, less positions I will lose. So even with the rich fuel and ERS deployment on overtake, Perez is already pulled out of the 1 second gap in front of us, so I can't even use DRS once it's enabled to hang on with that group. Hopefully, if I do get passed by Kvyat, I can kind of stick with him, use his DRS. Maybe he can pull us back to the front group there. But it already looks like the front group's starting to split into two. As you can see, the second Mercedes and the two Red Bulls have already pulled a little bit of a gap to, I think that's Vettel up in P5. And then the midfield car is behind Vettel, and then me leading the back of the grid in the third group. But coming up to lap 3 here, still setting, not still setting, but setting a personal best, which is a good sign, even though we're losing to the group in front. And here goes Kvyat on the inside. I try to stick it out, but it's really hard to get traction in this Haas, even on the soft tires. And I tried to fight him a little bit, but there's no way I was going to make it ahead of him. Reckoning tries on our outside, but we have the position on the inside and good enough traction to stay out in front of him. So now that DRS is enabled, I'm going to try my best to stay behind Kvyat here. I don't know if he's going to be able to pull back that gap to Perez out in front, but hopefully if I stick with Kvyat here, I'm safe for a couple laps from the cars behind trying to overtake. And you can just watch here, even with Rich and overtake on and DRS, it's we're not really gaining any time to Kvyat, just kind of staying in the same position. And I'm hoping through these, the corners after the DRS zones that I'll take him cleanly enough that I'm not losing too much time. But as you can see, he's already pulled out. And luckily, we still have DRS. We still hit that previous detection zone. Having to use everything in the car now to stay within that 1 second. I'm sure any of you guys that have driven the Haas before know that this thing is a boat. It's really difficult to drive. Skipping ahead to lap 7, not much really happened. Looks like a couple cars pitted behind us. Gasly's now the car behind us. We are out of DRS from Kvyat, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be really easy for Gasly to reel us in. Ocon behind him. Those cars are much faster than ours. Maybe if we drive well enough, we can get back into DRS. Kvyat's only 1.2, 1.3 in front of us. But down these straights, we're losing so much time. The Haas is so slow on the straights. Gaining a little bit of time through the corners, but not enough to really make up for the time that we lose on the straights. I don't even have any more ERS really to play with. I do have plenty of fuel left, but I feel like even in rich mix, it doesn't really do much for this car. So I think we're going to be coming in for our pit stop at the end of this lap here. So it looks like Kvyat's 2 seconds ahead. Let's see how much time we lose. I'm not amazing at the pit entries or anything. I really should do more practice, but sometimes it's really difficult for me to tell visually where the pit entry is. And as you can see there, I went down to neutral just because I kind of panicked. Didn't want to get a 5-second penalty. But hopefully it doesn't lose us too much time. I did entertain the idea of maybe staying on those softs until the rain came. But since everybody else is already pitting and it was still sunny out, I figured the rain wasn't be coming anytime soon. And now we're 2.5 seconds behind Kvyat after our pit stop. And down to P16. Hoping we have a quick enough outlap here that we don't get jumped by the cars behind us. But judging by our pit entry and how I feel on the medium compounds, I don't think it's going to be possible. Just hoping that we don't lose too many positions to the cars that were behind us before our pit stop. But Kvyat is pulling away. I was hoping for the weather to save me here, but I don't think it's going to happen. There's really not too many rain clouds in the sky right now. And Kvyat's really pulling away from us. And Perez, before pit stops, I think he was about 4 or 5 seconds ahead of us, a couple laps back. But now he's almost a full 10 seconds in front of us. And Kvyat's about 4 seconds in front of us. Grosjean does go into the pits. At the very least, I hope I get out in front of him. Even if we don't perform too well in the race, I want to at least be able to beat my teammate. Coming around the last corner here, and the guys in the pit lane look like they're already starting to roll away, so looks like we're going to lose a couple positions here, which we do. We lose a position to Gasly, and we lose a position to Ocon, who are both behind us. Ocon is on the hard for some reason. I don't really know why the AI does that. Puts their driver on hards for the last 5 or 6 laps. The softs could easily handle that. I mean, I know he was already on softs, but they could have threw him on the mediums. Hopefully we will be able to keep up with him now that he's on the hards, but the Renault is so much quicker and such a much better car than ours that I don't think it's going to be possible. And now we have Leclerc breathing down our neck, looking for a move on the inside here. Give him a little bit of space, but it looks like he backs out of it a little bit, and we do manage to stay out in front of him. As bad as the Ferrari is, it's still much better than our cars, so he probably will get in front of us eventually. And we lose our teammate 1 lap after he pitted. It looked like it was a mechanical failure. I tried to check the replay, but I didn't get to it in time. But it doesn't look like he had any damage on his car, so I think he just had some sort of mechanical failure. Trying to get a little bit of gain a little bit of time here through the VSC, but obviously you don't want to get too close to that delta. I'd rather lose a couple of tenths than 10 seconds from a penalty. Trying to get in front of Leclerc as much as possible, but it's not going to happen. Now the VSC is over. We are a little bit further back from Gasly and Ocon than we were before, and Leclerc is still right behind us. I'm thinking right now it might be better to just let him go and try to just hold off Giovinazzi for P15. Even though these aren't really, you're not going to get any points for these positions, I still want to finish as high as possible so I have something to kind of measure against next season. But now it does look like the sky is starting to get a little bit gray. So the rain might be coming soon, but I think even if it does, by the time it gets heavy enough, I think the race will be over. So I'm pretty sure everybody will be finishing the race on the tires that they're on right now. And we finally do get the warning from Jeff. 5 minutes for rain. Track is sky's getting a little bit darker now, so we might see a little bit of rain before the end of the race here. And at this point, I decided to just let Leclerc go. No matter what I'm doing, I can't seem to create a gap between myself and Leclerc. So decided to let him go, maybe hang on to this DRS and keep us in front of Giovinazzi and the two Williams. Even though the Williams are too far back to really do anything. They're 7 seconds back. But at least we can drive well enough to keep Giovinazzi behind us. But again, just through a couple corners here, Leclerc is already almost a second out in front of us. I'm trying really hard to stick with him and stick in his DRS, but we don't really have too much ERS to play with here. We do have plenty of fuel. Gonna start running the car with the rich fuel mix. Might as well just burn it all off. There's only 4 laps left anyway. But coming into this DRS detection zone, we're just barely out of it, and we don't get DRS. So Giovinazzi is 2.2 seconds behind. There's about a little bit over 4 laps left to go. I think this should be a big enough gap for us to be able to hold him off, so long as we don't make any huge mistakes. I am starting to get a little bit more comfortable now in the medium tires. They are worn down a little bit, but our fuel load is lightening up, and I'm just a little bit used to driving the Haas now. Hopefully we'll do a little bit better at the next race. Still missing apexes, of course, but I do feel more comfortable with the Haas now, kind of understanding how far back from the usual braking spots I need to hit the brakes in order to make the corners. So now we skip into the penultimate lap here. Giovinazzi is 1.3 seconds behind us. Looks like we're going to have a little bit of battle in our hands for the last couple of laps here. And I'm hoping that we just hold on long enough to fight him off. Well, that's kind of America in 2020 in a nutshell, right? It was a shame for the race to kind of end that way, but, you know, other than crashing in the second to last lap, it was a pretty good race. We still finished in front of our teammate, I guess. So, I guess that's a positive. Well, anyway, we were fighting for the no points positions anyway, so I'm not really too disappointed, and the car is kind of crappy. But next race we should have a couple of developed parts for the vehicle, a chassis part and an aero part, so hopefully the car will feel a little bit better next time. Thank you guys for watching this first episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And stay tuned for part 2. Thank you, everybody. Remember to eat your bok choy.
And after this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the driver's table. Valtteri Bottas passes his rival.
At least we beat the French guy, right? Or one of them. I know we got beaten by 2 French guys, but we beat our French teammate. Go America.
Wait, how many flying things have we had now? Anyway, I'm talking about Bottas this time. Just great raw speed and a good job in traffic as well.
Let's move on to the constructors. Mercedes move to the top of the table. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.